Dota 2 is under assault. The player base has become far too large, and pubs are now swarming with players asking questions such as, how do I activate the new shrines? How do I play the gambler?
I am the prophet.
This is unacceptable. We can't have these returning players coming back and enjoying our game. Dota is not meant to be enjoyed. It is meant to be suffered. And your job as an elite Dota player is to inflict this suffering. For this mission, Valve has masterfully gifted us with a weapon of mass destruction, Core Undying. The recent patch broke this hero beyond belief. How exactly? Well, a lot of things, but mainly because of this. The fact that you can do this, and because of this. So, let's take a look at how we can inflict as much suffering as possible with Core Undying. First, pick Undying, and move your ugly little icon to the offlane. When somebody also highlights the offlane because they think that you're a 5, politely tell them to fuck off and then type some zombie noises to diffuse the tension. Start with a set of tangos, 2 mangoes, and some soul ring components. Enter into the lane and press decay on the carry. Then decay the carry again. Then again, and again.
I'll have you in my claws, you rat.
Yep, that's it. In fact, there is only one error that can lose you a lane. That error? Running out of mana.
Give me mana. Give me mana.
Other than this, no counter to Undying's laning stage currently exists, and that's because of this change. This means, essentially, that for only 85 mana, you deal 80 damage, and you heal for 80 HP. Plus, you gain 4 strength, which gives you HP regen and right-click damage. So, how do we avoid this critical mistake of running out of mana? Well, for this, I have one rule. Train the enemy carry like they're a dog.
What the dog doing?
You want to decay them just enough until they respect you. Once they're afraid of you and don't touch the creep wave, then you can instead start pump faking decays and then right-clicking them. But remember, you just want to last hit. Don't blow through your mana. Do this until you have a soul ring, then you can spam decay off cooldown, aiming, of course, for double decays if possible. If you run out of mana because the enemy carry is a rabid dog, then send 2 more mangoes on a courier. After that, you do what you would normally do to a rabid dog. Love them unconditionally, but with decays until they die. Once you have Soul Ring and level 4 decay, the enemy carry will not be able to lane against you and will proceed to AFK in the jungle. At this point, some pathetic ass support will attempt to hide in the trees and soak XP from the lane. Conveniently, this ability destroys trees, so drop it to dive and kill the support, then secure the tower. At this point, you may have the thought, well, I'm an early game hero. Surely I should run around and be active, right? Wrong. You are an offlaner. Have you heard of Amar the Fucker from OG?
OG featuring Amar the Fucker!
Do you know why this little psychopath wins majors? That's right, bitch. Your job is to sit in the enemy jungle and farm all of these camps. Why is this the strat? Well, there's actually 3 reasons. Number 1, this is currently the best farm in the game for the enemy carry. And this is even more so true as of 7.32 because the easy camp in the triangle was removed. Number 2, your hero scales incredibly well and farms super fast with decay. So if you can sit here and farm this, and your carry is also happily farming, well, then you'll have 2 carries. Number 3, and this is the most important reason of all. Your hero is a pain in the ass to kill. It's literally his name. In an ideal world, here is the exact formula for how to play this hero between 10 and 20 minutes. As the minute mark is about to hit, push this lane into the tier 2 tower. Because the creeps are here, the enemy team will have to go deal with them, allowing you to farm these camps. Farm these with decay, pulling them together, even dropping tombstone if you have to in order to kill them quickly. Then farm towards your own side, eventually pushing the creep wave in again at the minute mark and repeat the process. The reason that you don't farm in the other direction at the minute mark is because by the time you've killed these camps, then the enemy will have killed these camps. So, with this pattern, you're denying them the most farm possible while also not feeding. As a side note, this is not just an Undying thing. this is just an offlane thing that Undying is really good at. So, do this in general and you will win games. Anyway, next up on your bucket list is to go do the most insane thing that this hero is able to do: solo Roshan. Once the clock hits 15 minutes, pick up an Ag Shard and finish your Echo Saber. This is when you smoke yourself and treat Roshan like he just said he would fuck your mother. Once you're in the pit, pop ult, drop Tombstone, and decay Roshan off cooldown.
Alert! The enemy has taken our intelligence.
The Echo Saber plus Ag Shard combo gives you just enough attack speed to never have to take a single hit from Roshan, since your zombies will tank for you. And, funny enough, as a brief aside, technically Undying could have done this faster in a previous patch, because his zombies used to do piercing damage. But now, they do default damage. And it's important to note, that is not a nerf, it's actually a huge buff, because it means that his Tombstone is much stronger versus heroes, which, by the way, is a huge reason that his win rate is so ridiculously high. To understand why, let's do a quick pop quiz on Dota 2 damage types. In Dota 2, there are 4 damage types for attacks. Number 1, the Runty damage type. These units deal 25% less damage to heroes and 30% less damage to reinforced units. Lane creeps, for example, deal Runty damage. Number 2, the Piercing damage type. These units deal 50% more damage to creeps, but 50% less to heroes, and 65% less to reinforced units. Most easy camp creeps deal piercing damage, which is precisely why the easy camp is so damn good at clearing through creep waves. Number 3, the reinforced damage type. These units deal 50% more damage to other reinforced units. They also take 50% less damage from heroes, 30% less damage from creeps, and 65% less from piercing units. Siege creeps and towers are reinforced, which is why they deal so much damage to each other, but are so difficult to kill for heroes. Number 4, the default damage type. Default units deal 100% damage to everything, and their damage is only altered by the target's armor and resistances. In Dota 2's Primal Beast update, these attack types went from hidden and only understood by people who read the wiki to not hidden, but still only understood by people who read the wiki. In this patch, a few units received a massive shadow buff as a result of some of the damage types getting reworked. For example, since defense classes became deprecated in favor of these attack types, Roshan's defense class went from basic to default. This meant that he officially took 50% more damage from piercing units instead of 50% less. This is why Venomancer or Shadow Shaman can basically solo Roshan with their wards, because they deal piercing damage. In the same patch, Undying's Tombstone zombies got changed from dealing piercing damage to dealing default damage. So, as a result, Tombstone zombies deal twice the amount of damage to Roshan, but also twice the amount of damage to heroes. In other words, Undying got the best of both worlds with these changes, which explains his pick and win rate since that patch. If you have a strong mid laner or carry, I would highly recommend giving them the Aegis so that you don't have to carry the game on your own. Undying, and this actually makes sense given his name, is actually very bad at dying because he loses decay stacks and flesh golem when he respawns. So, it's kind of like putting a bow tie on a pile of shit. It's still a pile of shit, even with the bow tie. But sometimes in Dota you don't trust your idiot team, and in this case you can pick up the Aegis. With Aegis, there are 2 paths that you can choose to close out the game. 1. Continue farming. This is the path for when your team wants to hit creeps, which, because of this guy, is usually the case. Going down this path, you'll likely do some farming pattern like the one that we talked about before. Except instead of doing it here, you do it here, then here, then here, and so forth, based on where the enemy team has run off to. Essentially, you run after them on the map, farming right in front of their face, daring them to try and go on you. If they do go on you, well, you win because you have an Aegis. If they don't go on you, then you win because you're out farming them. Rinse and repeat this until you have a 20k gold lead. But, going back, if your team does want to fight when you get the Aegis, then you can. Number 2, run at towers. Usually, off of the first Aegis, you will be able to secure the enemy safe lane tier 2 tower. How do you do it? Well, it's really easy. You run at it, hit it with your team, and force the fort. Once fort is down, wait for the next creep wave, and then drop tombstone while you hit the tower. 90% of the time, the enemy team will run away because zombies scare them, and 10% of the time, they'll run at you because they have a death wish, and in this case, you should kindly oblige. After you take the tier 2, they'll have another fort, and so you go down the continue farming path at this point, except with an extra outpost. Okay, after this, you should have control of about 80% of the map, and so now we can talk about items. The build, quickly from start to finish, is Soul Ring, Phase Boots, Echo Saber. After this, disassemble the Echo Saber into BKB or Ags, depending on how much magical bullshit they have. Then, make a new Echo Saber, eventually disassembling it for BKB or Ags, whichever one you didn't get earlier. After that, you can snag a casual Mage Slayer, then a Refresher, so you can have 2 of everything. Eventually, you will get your minus 2 seconds decay talent, your reincarnation talent, and you become a god. Okay, finally, let's go through a lightning round of some tips and tricks to take your Undying from just good tier to Gaben tier. Trick number 1, place your tombstone on high grounds or low grounds so that the enemy team has to path to a shitty location in order to kill it. Trick number 2, tombstone gives 1800 vision, even at night, which is just as much as Night Stalker, by the way. So, you can place it preemptively while sieging towers to see the entire enemy team, and to cancel blinks from counter initiators. Trick number 3, the damage amplification from Undying's ult stacks additively with other sources of damage manipulation. This is precisely why Undying has such a huge win rate against Spectre, because if you hit her just once with ult, you completely negate her dispersion damage reduction. In fact, it becomes negative. Trick number 4, Soul Rip heal per unit is based on where you're standing, not the target. So, if you're surrounded by a bunch of units and the enemy you're trying to kill is far, far away from you, you will still do a shitload of damage to them. That's it. Good luck in your pubs.